One of the world's top chefs.
San Diego's Addison restaurant became a world-class dining destination.
Chef William Bradley, a culinary mastermind. There are only 143 Michelin three-star restaurants in the world. How did you get into this industry and rise to the top?
For me, it was a very modest beginning. I got a job at a local Italian restaurant, mom and pop. I worked my way up in different restaurants.
2019 came, you got your Michelin star, 2020 hits, COVID. The restaurant industry is in shambles.
I don't know how to give up. I had a very obsessive mindset and I needed to utilize that in a positive way. The Michelin Guide, they're very, very good. They're like CIA members. They are amazing at hiding. It can't be persuaded, it can't be bought, it can't be politicized. You earn it based on what you apply to a plate.
We all know these urban legends. They drop a fork or something, you see someone notices. Have you ever seen someone and thought this guy is a Michelin guy and he wasn't, and vice versa? Welcome to Vinny Vidi Vici, where we chat with some of the world's most successful people who will inspire, challenge, and motivate you to be your best self and help you conquer your dreams. With me today, we have Chef William Bradley, a culinary mastermind who has earned acclaim as one of the world's top chefs. His journey to culinary excellence and his dedication to maintaining the highest standards in the demanding world of fine dining is nothing short of remarkable. Whether you're aspiring to reach the top of your industry, seeking work-life balance in a high-pressure environment, or simply looking to refine your craft, this episode promises profound insights from a true genius. So with that, Chef Bradley, welcome to the studio.
Nice to be here, Vinny. Thanks for the very, very nice intro.
Great to have you here, and you know, I look up to you as probably my favorite chef in the world, and I'm not even kidding. Like your restaurant is by far probably the best three-star Michelin I've ever been to, and I just have to say I'm super excited to have you here.
Thank you.
You know, it's a long journey to get there. I mean, I watch a lot of good movies, and you've probably seen 500 Foot Journey. You haven't seen that one?
Yeah, it's an amazing movie.
Amazing, right?
So cool.
Such a good movie, and I've watched Burnt as well, and there's a few others.
Not into that one.
No, not as much. That was a little bit.
Yeah.
but 500 Foot Journey was my favorite.
It's one of my favorite movies, for sure.
But when it comes to the sort of the culinary journey, I think it was just a beautiful movie. And so anyone who's seen those movies or similar in that genre, I think gets a sense of what it's like. You know, at least from the outside looking in, to run a Michelin star restaurant, let alone a 3-star. And so, you know, today I just want to have a nice open discussion about, you know, what your day-to-day is like and
Sure.
how do you run this operation. But before we jump in there, let's just start off with, how did you get into this industry and rise to the top? And for those of you who are listening or watching, you know, there are only 143 Michelin 3-star restaurants in the world. And there's only one in Southern California, and that's Addison in Del Mar, California. And you have the distinct, you know, honor of being the guy. And so how did you get there? And let's start from the beginning. How did you get into it?
Sure. So, I mean, I didn't come from, you know, some of these, if you look at the 143 on that list, you know, there's a lot of culinary lineage throughout their families, and you hear a lot of stories like, you know, I used to cook next to my grandmother and my mother, and they got me into the culinary world. For me, it was a very modest beginning. You know, I had many other aspirations in life at a young age. I wanted to be a top football or AK soccer player. Mm-hmm. We call it soccer, obviously, in America, but that was my obsession. I learned from a very young age that I had a very obsessive mindset, and I needed to learn how to utilize that in a positive way. And sports was one thing that I became very obsessed with, to where, you know, the World Cup and the Champions League, and at my time growing up, it was the Serie A in Italy that had such, you know, such top talent, and it was a game played at such a high level. And from there, that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a professional football player. And as time went on, obviously that didn't really work out, because soccer in America, aka football, it just was not something of importance. As much as I was fixated on it, around me, there wasn't the support system. I made it all the way to the Olympic team at under age of 16, but fell short because of back then you needed to basically, I got to a point where you had to pay your way to be on the team, and that was something that, when you're obsessed, that's not in the cards. You're not going to pay your way to make a team. You're going to earn your way on the team. So that kind of changed my direction in life. And I was just one of those kids that I wanted to get a job. I wanted to work and see where that took me. And I just wanted to, start to develop my own independence. And from there, I got a job at a local restaurant that was it was an Italian restaurant, mom and pop.
Local?
It was local, and it was in the Bonita area.
Okay.
It's no longer there. But that was just a restaurant that I went to. And I think it was great that I went to a mom and pop first because I saw, as we were kind of talking before, your mother owned a small little restaurant many, many years ago. So that was the obsession and the passion and the lifestyle that these people put into this restaurant was very intriguing to me. So from there, I kind of just got into food and was trying to understand it. And then from there, I started to research in the library, chefs and who are chefs and what they're about. And then I started to sense that same obsession mindset of mine in terms of chefs. So I looked into Michelin, what that meant. This was way back then, and I realized that in the United States that there were chefs that worked for Michelin chefs. So you had like Daniel Boulud and Jean-Georges, because like Daniel worked with Roger Verger and Bocuse, and Jean-Georges worked in that same lineage. So it was exciting. So then I started to look at these big domestic chefs and how popular they were, and obviously back in the early 90s, with Daniel, he was and still is a big figure in American gastronomy, being that he came from France. So I was very fortunate because by research I found that there was a chef here in San Diego, where I was born and raised, that had just located to the Lowe's in Coronado. So the Lowe's in Coronado is still there, and he had worked for Danielle for 7 years at Le Cirque, and his name was James Boyce. So I was like, wow, if you trace all this back, there's lineage there. And he worked for Danielle for so long. So that's the closest I could get to one of those chefs at this time and learn my craft. So I applied for the job through a friend, and that was my first real introduction into the French brigade system. I was at a hotel. There were banquets and different restaurant outlets, and there were sous chefs, chef de tournants, and all this culinary world that I had just read about for many years, and I was able to get in there. And then obviously I worked my way up in different restaurants, different stages. I staged at the French Laundry. I staged with Alain Giraud, Sandro Gamba. Stages are, as we know professionally, small little areas where you work for a place for maybe a week or two. Years ago, unpaid. Nowadays they are paid. But those were just ways of learning. So that was kind of my early career.
Hi, this is Vinny. I want to thank you for being a viewer or subscriber to my channel. And if you are a viewer and not a subscriber, please hit the subscribe button. I appreciate all the feedback and all the comments. But I'd like some more. Please tell me who you'd like to see on my show and what questions you'd want me to ask them. I'm going to try my best to get them on just for you. Thanks so much. And now back to the show. It very much reminds me of the Japanese system as well.
Yes.
The sushi chef sort of, I think he spent 10 years at one of those master chef restaurants. 10 years just making rice.
Right.
Just to move up to the next level, we even get allowed to cut the fish.
Right. And there, again, it goes back to that extreme amount of discipline that I had to have to become a professional soccer player.
Yeah.
You had to have an extreme amount of discipline. And I saw that at the highest level in cooking too. So I kind of just took that obsession and that discipline mindset and moved it into cooking because you have to have that.
It's an obsession of perfection.
Yes.
It's not just obsessed. People think you can be obsessed. You're obsessed about getting it perfect.
Yeah, and now the way I look at things, it's better to be consistent than perfect.
Okay.
So if you're consistently
imperfect, you're fine.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I mean, it's really about being consistent, and I think that's what really separates restaurants nowadays. Is they're very inconsistent, and they can be because it's a mindset to be consistent.
So when did you get into, so you started with the mindset that you wanted to be a Michelin-star chef one day. That's why, that's why you chose this path.
It's really strange that I did that this is,
How old
this is
were
like
you?
1996.
Okay.
So this was very interesting that I had gravitated to these French, 3-star Michelin chefs that no one really heard of.
It was a calling.
Now looking back, it was. And I did anything and everything to obtain that. So through my career, I just really emulated the restaurants that I thought were special, or the chefs like Alain Chappelle and some of these great French chefs, Michel Trago, some of the real true, what they call, I think it refers to the movie that we were talking about earlier, the 500.
500-foot journey.
Yeah, the 3 stars is for the gods.
Yes, it's
Right.
the first stuff for the guys. Yeah,
And that's the point in that movie. And I looked at these chefs as gods, because they were so rare. And what did they do, or how did they do what they did to make them at that level? So it just became an obsession. And then when the Michelin Guide came here in 2019 to all of California, I knew that it was time to.
It was on the cards. So let's talk about that journey for a second. But let's start at the beginning of. So when did you start Addison, and and when did you get your and let's talk about the journey between when you started it and you got your first Michelin star.
Right. So I was very fortunate. In this business, it's about kind of like who you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of connections that way. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it's like that in a lot of businesses.
It is.
And I was given an opportunity through a friend where I was called upon by the original owner, who was Doug Manchester, so a San Diego native. He owned the Grand Del Mar. He had the vision of the Grand Del Mar, the golf course there, and he wanted to build a standalone restaurant that kind of emulated Studio, which was at the Laguna Beach Montage. They had already built the Montage Laguna Beach before, and they had put that restaurant Studio down there, which was doing great. And that was actually my old mentor's restaurant at the time. With that, I really looked at my next move, and I was called upon to actually take this restaurant on by the original owner. And that was in 2006. So the journey from 2006 to 19 was really a long one. And it was, I had so many opportunities to leave, with other opportunities to go to other places. But I stayed there because I just had a feeling that Addison wasn't done yet.
There's something special there.
There still is. It's a place that I go to every day, and it feels like it's my first day at work. It's just this really interesting thing. So as those years went on, as those years went by, we evolved. The restaurant stabilized, you know what I mean, and still continued to evolve and stayed committed to operating as a business, but still producing food at a high level. But we were a lot more safe, right? And I would say maybe more predictable in terms of our cuisine and the style of how we executed service. But that all changed in 19 when the Michelin basically, like I said, announced that it would be doing all of California. But before then, we did well with the accolades that we received. Wine Spectator, Forbes, 5-star. We were a Relais and Chateau restaurant. So the accolades that we could receive by hard work, not politics, we received. And that kind of set us up, I really think, for a good foundation for 2019.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's, it reminds me of, I'm from tech, right? It reminds me of a startup, right? You can throw in the towel early and you never know what you could have achieved, or you grind it out. I always tell people, no matter what you're doing, whether you're in the restaurant business, whether you're in a tech business, whatever you're doing, when you start something new from scratch and you got to create something out of nothing, you have to put your vision on the table and create that. It's better to fail than to quit.
100%.
You'd rather say, you know what, I did everything I can, I ran out of money, the whole thing shut down. But that's way better than giving up. You just don't know what you're going to achieve one day.
I don't know how to give up.
Yeah.
It's not.
And that's a sign I see in all the, so every other successful person sat in your seat, it's always the grit, the perseverance, the unwillingness to fail and give up that is what puts them there, right?
Yeah.
And that's it's a commonality for success.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot. It's something that a lot of people don't understand or see. They see the stars and this and that,
Yeah.
but the day-to-day operational things and the decisions that you need to make. Sometimes you're supported with your decisions, and sometimes you're on your own. But you have to stand your ground and make sure that you're standing up for the vision, for sure.
So 2019 came. You got your Michelin star. I mean, that must have been a great moment for you and the team, right? You've had this validation of what you've been doing for years. 2020 hits, COVID. The restaurant industry is in shambles for the most part. You're not a takeout business.
We tried it.
How did you handle that period?
That was a dark time for the world, as we know, and I think we all can reflect back. It was a big challenge for us. We didn't know if we would ever reopen, and there were many conversations that I had to have with certain people to make sure that we did reopen, and I would do whatever it took, even if it was me and 2 cooks to reopen that restaurant. I knew that I had to lead the team through this time, and that's all I could do. I could just lead my team and make sure that they were safe and committed to getting the restaurant back open. And we stayed closed for roughly almost 9 months.
Yeah.
And so we had this, yes, we're 1-star Michelin restaurant. We just opened back up. We're outside only. We want 2 stars. Yeah. So the team thought I was absolutely insane that I looked around and said, okay, we're all back, so we got to get 2 stars. They're like, is he okay? And I just wouldn't stop.
So I came back, I think it was March in 2021 when it was still, I'd been there previously, but I came back in 2021 for the outdoor experience.
Sure.
Which was, I think you had the heaters going.
Yeah, we did everything.
Yeah, it was nice. A bunch of us came in, and it was a really, really great experience. And I think, so you got the 2nd star at the end of that year, right?
Yeah, so Michelin paused all the
Sure.
the awards. So technically, if you looked at it, we actually went 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
And there's only been one other restaurant that ever did that in the history of the Michelin Guide, which is pretty exciting. So we had that 1 and then the pause year.
Yeah.
And then we went right into 2. Yeah. And that one was pretty interesting. The Michelin Guide, they're very, very, very good. They're like CIA members.
Let's talk about that, because we all know the sort of urban legends of what happens. So I'd love to,
true.
I'd love to know, like, when you see, you've obviously, have you ever seen someone and thought this guy is a Michelin guy and he wasn't, and vice versa?
Oh yeah, I mean, that happens. It's fun.
Yeah,
I look at it as kind of interesting because it's like it's the dining room and you're really, really engaging with your guests to make sure the experience is at the level that we're all expected. Yeah. But they are amazing at hiding.
Yeah,
they go to great lengths to make sure that you don't know, and that's why it's so respected, because they have a methodology.
Okay.
And the methodology hasn't changed. It can't be persuaded. It can't be bought. It can't be politicized. It's you earn it based on what you apply to a plate. And that's hard for a lot of people to understand because it seems so simple, but it's really not. Yeah. It goes back to what I said before about consistency. That's a nightmare for some chefs when they're not around or they're doing other things and they're not in their establishment.
Because that one guy walks in one night and you screw it up, you're done.
You could be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
So with that, I mean, we don't know if they ate outside. They probably did.
Yeah.
So I that was probably the biggest victory, and I would say
there's like urban legends, like they drop a fork or something, you see someone notices.
No,
is that all just like BS?
Yeah, I think that's kind of fluff
in
terms of that. I do think that for us, they did a really cool kind of thing. They called me and asked me if I would be interested in doing a small little video regarding Addison, and they were going up the state of California because they just wanted some content for a video that they were going to put out, because we were still all kind of we were still in that COVID era. There was nothing going on really, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, sure, yeah, I would. They're like, listen, chef, it's going to be like 2 minutes. We're just going to come in. You're going to say, hey, hi, my name's William Bradley. Talk about your restaurant for like 2-3 minutes, and then we got to go to the next location. I'm like, okay, great, no problem. And they said, we'll see you next month. So okay, that was set up, and we were just business as usual every night, just doing what we do. And lo and behold, these people came in that I've never seen before. There's 3 or 4 photographer, cameraman, 2 ladies. The names I'm not on top of my head, but they just came in, said, hey, chef, how are you? Great. Can we go in the kitchen and talk to you? And we'll go over the thing. I said, yeah, no problem. I get in there. I'm dressed in my whites. And she's like, okay, so I'm going to ask you your first question. I said, okay, great. And she says, well, hold on. There's a phone call for you. I said, oh, phone call. So she had like this device. I don't know. It looked like a phone. And she just opened it up and she passed it over to me. And a voice came over the other phone and says, is this Chef William Bradley? I said, yes, it is. And it said, this is the North American Michelin director. I said, okay, hello. And he goes, I just want to let you know that your restaurant has received its 2nd star. And I was just like, I freaked out. I totally freaked
That's
out. That's
amazing.
They totally caught me.
Because they weren't
off
having
guard.
awards that year, right? So
they weren't having them,
Yeah.
but they were having them.
Okay.
And it was, a little
because
bit.
of COVID, they couldn't have big gatherings.
They
so,
couldn't have big gatherings, so
yeah.
they did it virtually.
Wow, that was amazing.
I was like freaking out because totally not knowing when they were going to do it, if they were going to do it, and how they were going to do it.
Yeah.
So that was like really off guard.
What a moment.
Well, that was a big moment because there was a lot of emotion because of COVID.
And how you got through that really tough time.
And how we really got through the tough time with just my core people, my former chef de cuisine, Stephanie, and Sean, who you know really well, and Johnny, who is now the chef de cuisine, was the sous chef. It was really just the 4 of us.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That survived that.
That's fighting in the trenches.
It was me and Stephanie.
Yeah.
Doing takeout and talking to Sean on the phone every day, making sure he wasn't going to like do something weird.
Yeah, you actually did takeout? Actually,
yes, I did. Yes, we did.
What did you guys do?
We did it for about a month.
Okay.
A month or 2. Okay. Towards when people were doing it, we wanted to just at least try it so I could bring back a few more cooks just to make sure that they were okay.
Yeah.
So it was really a move to make sure that the staff was fine. But then we had to do a whole P&L for it, and it was.
Honestly, you could have converted to a bakery and you'd have been fine. Your sourdough is literally the best sourdough.
And the funny thing is, the sourdough was made by Stephanie during COVID.
Okay. Oh, that
was where the birth of that sourdough bread came from.
It's an incredible sourdough.
It was a great start.
Yeah.
It's just evolved into. It's really special now, and it's been handed off by so many people now, and most of the people get involved in making the bread. So. It's great.
Okay, so that's an incredible journey to your 2nd star. Now, I think I noticed that at the 2nd star level, even people locally who I'd say, "Hey, let's go to Addison, let's check it. Go have dinner." It was cool. It's like, hey, it's a Michelin-star restaurant. Like, but a 2nd star is kind of like it's kind of this weird spot, but it's kind of like a double 1-star, right? No disrespect to 2-star chefs out there. Not many people knew about it. The moment you hit your 3rd star, I think I saw you that weekend. You got it on Monday. I was in the restaurant on Saturday. You told me you had close to 1,000.
There was over 3,000 bookings within 2 days, 48 hours.
I mean, that's nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, that many bookings in a couple of days. And you booked out, I think at the time you said you booked out like 9 months out or something.
We were 9. Now we're 5.
Okay. But I mean, obviously there's a big spike.
It's a big spike, but it stays there.
5 is pretty impressive. The fact that you booked out 5 months is impressive. And so for me, what happened afterwards is because people, my friends, the sort of circles I'm in, they know me, they know I'm a foodie. And whenever I say, hey, there's a great new restaurant we should try out, they trust me. All of a sudden, they were telling me about Addison.
It's wild. That's the beauty of the guide. They find restaurants that are not Instagram worthy.
Yeah.
They don't have a PR company. They're not a brand.
Yeah.
They find these little niches because of the methodology and the obsession that the inspectors have matches the same obsession the chef has. So when those coexist, they find these establishments that you would probably never find, and they put them on the world scene for the world to take notice.
Based on the pure quality of the service and the food. The decor is important. I mean, you got a very classic, beautiful restaurant, for sure. But there are other restaurants that are a little bit more over the top looks-wise. But I think what separates you from every other 3-star is just the taste journey that you've balanced out every single course almost perfectly, I would say.
Right. And there is a lot of there is some confusion at times where people think that the ambiance of the room or the linen that you use or the forks or the cutlery or the glassware or the lighting or the service plays an impact on the 3rd star. It doesn't.
What is
it?
It's
100% what you apply to the plate.
Okay.
Now, in my personal opinion, I feel that all those other things that I just spoke about help what you apply to the plate.
Sure.
I think there is some merit to that, in my opinion. But the Michelin, they're looking for your cuisine. There, in my opinion, there is a big difference between a 2 and a 3-star.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I mean, I've actually found sometimes I found a couple of 1-stars that I think are probably underrated. And so there's lots of gems, and there are a lot of gems in the 1-star. There are very few 3-stars where I felt that was overrated, and the 2-stars kind of like. I'm speaking broad terms. I've been to a lot. I think last year I went to 15 to 20 Michelin-star restaurants around the world. I went to Mirazur.
Sure, amazing.
Le Chantecler. I went to Yann in France. Per se, the whole lot, right? And so I think Michelin gets it right. I mean, they get it right. In fact, when you guys had 1-star or even 2, I think it was 1-star, 2-star, I was shocked that you were only 1 and 2 stars back in those days, because I always felt that from the first time I went there, you were a 3-star. Because I don't see, and maybe you can tell me the difference. What did you change in the plating and what was on the plate from the 1 and 2-star to the 3-star? Because I don't remember it improving that much.
Right.
Because I always felt it was 3-star already.
Yeah. I mean, I think what really separated us is, and I think this is what separates 3-stars in my opinion. And again, this is just my humble opinion. It's your signature.
Yeah.
I think you have to have identity. I think when you sit in a 3-star Michelin restaurant like Mirazur, you know where you are. You're eating at Mirazur.
Yeah.
When you eat at Per Se, you know where you are.
Yeah.
You're eating at Per Se. And when you eat at Addison, you know where you are. You're eating at Addison. So I think they really put this into play a lot, and they want people that inspire, that don't get inspired, right? I think the 3-star restaurants can inspire other restaurants, but we're not inspired by other ones. We respect the other ones.
Yeah.
Like this restaurant, I respect them. I would never dare try to do or emulate what they do, because that's that person's personality. That's that chef's personality. So when you get to that level, there is a lot of knowledge transfer because it's a small group of us. But again, we admire one another. We hold each other in a very high respect, and that would be deemed disrespectful to emulate someone else's vision. So I think we did that really, really well. I think, like you said, I think the food was there, but there was a big shift, like chicken liver churro. You can't get that anywhere but Addison. And that's just, again, looking at where we're located. We're in San Diego. There's a lot of Southern influences in terms of Latin influences in the cuisine all throughout here. And everyone knows what a churro is. And you take French technique with Latin flavor profile, and you have something that's kind of catchy and fun and very, very unique and very enjoyable. So that to me is a signature. That was inspired by my own mind, not someone else's dishes. So,
I've often said in life, I always find that success, I see often success for me as a measure, and I think for others as well, is when your heroes reach out to you.
Yes, yeah, I could. Yes,
And so whenever like someone who I've always looked up to comes out and say, "Hey, Vinny, I'd love to chat about this," I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you want to chat to me?
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible." How often has that happened to you now?
Often.
And so who would who would you say are the people you look up to, your heroes?
I mean, Thomas Keller was always
Okay,
a hero.
of course,
He's become a great friend.
that's amazing.
I mean, it's. I have to pinch myself when all of a sudden he's texting me,
And right,
and his name comes up on there as TK.
yeah,
Surreal.
It's surreal.
Yeah, it's wild. 1 minute you're, in a conversation with the North American director of Hublot, and then you're talking to TK, and then you're picking your kids up from school, all on a Monday. It's just and it's just wild.
That's
It's different, but it doesn't change who I am. But it is pretty cool to talk to people or establishments or things that I've always held in the highest regard.
Yeah,
I still do.
It's very fulfilling. It's soul food.
It is.
Yeah.
It means you've done something right.
Exactly.
Thank God.
You've often said, or you have said in the past, you are being presented with two choices: evolve or repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think this credo is not only critical to your success, but also to others?
Sure. I mean, I think that's a real dangerous thing that we all encounter in life, where we hit the panic button and we think we have to change. I think change is dangerous. I think evolving is the right step. In evolving, you're doing it the right way, and you're doing it with people that are committed to you. When you all of a sudden just change something, it's dangerous, and you end up repeating bad habits and bad mistakes. So it's really about evolving, and that really helps the evolution of your establishment or who you are. You know what I mean? I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Because I don't like repeating things. There's an old quote where a true pro, right, doesn't repeat the same mistake twice. Pros make mistakes all day long, but they'll never repeat the same mistake twice, right? I've made many mistakes today, but they're first timers. I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. That's a pro.
That's a pro.
And be a pro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Getting a 3-star is actually harder than getting an Oscar. If you look in terms of the number of people who've received 3 stars versus Oscars.
And I've never dived into the Oscar world, but a Michelin 3-star is not a lifetime achievement award.
Yeah, you have to maintain it.
You have to maintain it.
Yeah, exactly.
An Oscar, you get it, and you're like, the trophy's at the house, and you can put them on the shelf and dust them off. But yeah, the 3-star, you have to rinse and repeat, right?
So what do you have to do to maintain that? Because like this is, I guess the question is, tell me about and share with people watching and listening to this, what sort of work ethic do you have to get to this point in your life? I mean, how many hours a day? When do you relax? When do you chill out? How many hours are you putting into your craft? Because Malcolm Gladwell writes about 10,000 hours, right, to reach some sort of peak in your career or in any topic. I can't imagine a more taxing job, like physically and mentally demanding.
Yes, it really, really is. So I looked at this profession many years ago, and I related it to a professional soccer player. It's a sport. Mm-hmm. At the highest level, it's like a sport. I have to take care of myself. I have to make sure I don't smoke, I don't drink, I exercise, I do all the things, the preparation outside of my job. So when I'm in my job, I'm performing at the highest level. And I still need to make adjustments as we age to really maintain that physical and mental clarity. So again, we talked about this earlier. It's an obsession. I think about food all the time, or what we need to do. I dream about it. I don't turn it off. You can't turn it off. You can try to relax, but you can't at this level. That's why it's a very small group. It's a pure obsession that just, you can still enjoy things and but you're always in that mindset. It just doesn't change. It's just who I am.
Tell me, what does your day look like? What time do you go to bed? What time do you wake up? And just walk me through a day in the life of
So, I mean, at my age now, it's a little different than it was maybe 10, 15 years ago. I'm 48.
40, okay.
So I do have children. So I get up at god awful times for the last 10 years. My oldest is 10, my youngest is 8. And so if I could have changed anything there, I would have had children a little younger, right? But no regrets at all. Best thing I've ever done in my life. But with that being said, that's changed my duration of sleep. So sleep is obviously very important. I usually rise at about 6, and I assist my beautiful wife with getting the kids ready for school, and I take my kids to school every single morning.
That's amazing.
I will not miss a day unless I'm out of town on a business trip, and business trips always around the restaurant. So that's always, that's kind of fun. It's a ritual. Eat breakfast with them, hang out a little bit, do spelling tests, talk about school. I'm very family forward as well, very connected with my kids. And then I take them to school, come back home. Then my wife goes to work, and then that's the time where I'll work out, do some cardio or some lightweight training. Mostly cardio for me. I'm a cardio guy. I think it goes back to my soccer days. I like to, do long. I used to be an avid cyclist, but I kind of.
How long do you train for?
At least an hour a day.
And any heart rate zone you focus on?
Yeah, zone 2.
Zone 2. So Peter Attia style.
Peter Attia, amazing.
Yeah, I follow him as well.
Yeah, he's kind of he found the doctor, I can't remember his name, out of Colorado. He's actually Spanish, I think. That kind of started the zone 2 because there's one of the Tour de France guys, Pogacar, who was I think he won the Tour maybe 2 years ago. Anyway, he's a new phenom. Big, great
So an
cyclist.
hour a day, zone 2.
Zone 2.
You're doing what, 6-7 hours a week of zone 2 cardio?
Yeah.
And then
no, not that many. I'd say I do 5 days a week.
5 days a week, and then you do the zone 5 as well that he recommends?
Hit sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, occasionally. But I like zone 2 because I can work when I'm in zone 2. So usually when I'm in zone 2, that's the phone comes out. I'll do some emails, have some phone calls because you'll know you're in.
Is it treadmill or is it bike?
A stationary bike. Like
stationary bike. Yeah.
Peloton.
You know what I find? I have a Peloton tread. I find doing zone 2 on the tread is a lot easier for me than on the bike, because the bike you have to maintain the cadence is often you get distracted. Like and you slow down, and then your heart rate drops. Meanwhile, if you're on the treadmill, if I'm at like 3 miles per hour. And I'm walking quickly.
You can't stop.
I can't stop, even if I'm checking emails and doing stuff. Exactly. So otherwise, I'll fall off. So I find the treadmill way more, for me, more effective at zone 2 when you are expecting to be a bit distracted.
Yeah, I like the bike.
Yeah,
I like sitting on a bike because, like I said, I did a lot of cycling, but I needed to get away from doing that on the road. A little dangerous nowadays.
Yeah.
With the cell phones and everything. So that's important, and then I eat and get to work.
Okay. And so you get to work what time? Like 12?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no later than 12 at times.
And your team's obviously doing all the buying and the stuff in the morning, the stuff.
Yeah, we have a team that runs early. They get there about 6:30, and they do a lot of receiving of the goods, checking of the product. And now we're at a point where we've built such a rapport that nothing comes in the back door of the restaurant unless it's of the highest quality. So there's people there that can.
And your suppliers know, like, if they screw up once, they're done, type of thing.
Well, yeah, it's very important because as a chef, I it's all about the materials.
Yeah, absolutely.
The materials have to be of the highest quality.
What's your scariest moment in the kitchen in the past couple of years? Where you were like,
every day during COVID.
Okay, but
it was really tough.
Any particular, like, I mean, obviously COVID is hard, but any particular situation where someone, you or someone really messed things up in the kitchen and you had to fix it, and you fixed it?
I
Just like a story, anecdote.
You know, there hasn't been many.
Okay.
To be really honest with you, because there's been times that something's been, but we can always fix it if we stay calm.
Okay.
Stay relaxed, and don't freak out that much. It can be fixed, but it's more. I mean, where there's the biggest challenge at this level is the synergy between the front of the house and the back of the house. That's the biggest challenge every day, is getting everyone on the same page and working for the common goal. When you have chefs in there, they're like pirates, right? They're in a pack. Front of the house, there's more of a ballet. They're different, so their sense of urgency is very different than a chef's or cook's. So we have to make sure that we work hard there. So there's some challenges there at times, but we see through those and make sure they get fixed.
I'm going to give you a question. I hope no one's asked you this before. So, it's often the case when people come to a fine dining establishment like Addison, where they have expectations of you and of the venue. What are your expectations of your clientele? What are the things that don't sit well with the team when people behave in a certain way? What advice do you have for people who have never been to a fine dining place before?
This is a great question. I love it. No one's ever asked me this.
Oh, that's great. So
I cannot wait to answer this.
That's great. So when people come to your restaurant, and a lot of people, before they've never been to a 3-star before, for example, right, and they're coming for a special event or whatever it is, what are the expectations from them? The expectation is to enjoy yourself. Mm-hmm. Allow us to take care of everything. That's what you're there for. When you're dining at a restaurant like ours, and 3 stars are different. Yeah. There's a lot of different 3-star restaurants, but enjoy yourself. We'll take care of everything. But my biggest advice to the guests is, when you're at a restaurant of this level and you're having a tasting menu, and let's say it's 2 people, and this is exactly, this happened last night, so it's great. It's very fresh, and it happens quite often. So it was 2 guests, and second course comes out. They go over the spiel. They're enjoying the course and talking, having a good time, and service team comes over, clears the dish, and 5-6 minutes goes by. Somebody gets up to go to the bathroom. Okay, they go off to the bathroom. They're in the bathroom 5-6 minutes. Sit back down. 2 minutes goes by. The other person goes up for the bathroom. They're gone for about 8-9 minutes. We had to fire their course twice, almost 3 times, because once that one dish is about 80% consumed, mm-hmm, in order for us to keep the rhythm and the cadence of the cuisine on each station, we're fired that course. So it's like that dish got fired so many times. So the point is, if you need to go to the restroom, and it happens, mm-hmm, especially if you're having a lot of water or wine or cocktails, once that course is cleared, go to the bathroom. Don't wait.
Go, and then we know table 2's up.
Okay.
And that's perfect timing.
Okay.
The real professional diner knows when to go.
It's funny.
Take a break.
Do you know how many? I've noticed people in my group. I don't think I've ever done that, but I noticed people.
You're actually good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've never had to refire a Vinny course. No.
But I noticed people in my group have done that before, and they're you could have gone 5 minutes ago. The next course is about to come. And you just gotta sit there.
They lose sight. I think they lose sight of a tasting menu.
Yeah.
Maybe that's one indicator of a Michelin inspector. No. They don't go to the bathroom. They're
I'm not an inspector. We know that.
Vinny's not. We've seen him go to the bathroom. But I think that's one thing, is just kind of understanding when you're having a tasting menu that course is being prepared.
This is really good advice for people.
Because what we have to do in that moment, that thing gets taken off the pass. Somebody's going to eat it in the kitchen or dishwasher, or it goes in the trash.
Yeah.
And we start over.
Oh, wow. That's like this
It
is how
slows the engine
this is
down.
how fresh it is, right?
Yeah, it slows the engine down.
Yeah, and then it affects the other patrons in the restaurant as well, and everyone else.
Then it puts a pause, and it can back up a station, and then that's when you got to stay calm and get your team out of it, and then get them back on the road, because now they've been derailed.
I like this. By the way, I like this. This is great. What other don'ts or do's do you have for people who have never been to a Michelin-star restaurant before?
The other thing would be, don't take too long getting the hero shot, because the food is very temperature and texture sensitive.
Okay. So when people pull out their phones,
I'm fine, but there's some that like they sit there and they're like just talking, and that churro is just sitting there, and I know it's soggy.
Yeah.
It's been sitting there for 10 minutes. Like, eat it.
Yeah.
I see that, and I'm like, they're still, and then they do, and then I don't know what they're thinking, but I know what I would be thinking after that. Like, that wasn't that good.
Well, obviously you waited 10 minutes to eat it.
But I don't know if they're thinking that.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Or they take a picture, and the other thing too is we put the food down a certain way, and then they'll move it over to take a picture, and then they'll move it again, and then taking a picture, and then they'll slide it over here, and then the next thing you know, it's been like 6 minutes, and they start to eat it, and it's like, oh, it's cold. You know what I mean? So maybe keep it to a 2-minute.
Okay.
So the better the phone, the faster the photo, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. And okay, let's talk about wines for a bit. So you don't drink?
Not anymore, no.
Not anymore. Okay.
But I mean, wine and cuisine is a beautiful thing.
How do you pair the wines for your tasting menu? And who do you have? Som, obviously.
Yes.
And how do you think about, as someone who doesn't drink, how do you think about the pairing? Do you just rely on the Som for it?
The core menu itself hasn't changed much since we've had the third star.
Okay.
When we do, we have discussions about it. In terms of wine, I've been very lucky to be surrounded by great wine professionals my whole career.
Sure.
Just really lucky I fell into that part. So when it comes to a dish composition, there's been times in the past, not recently, where a great relationship with the wine team. It's like, hey chef, what do you think about this? Do you think we could maybe dial back the white asparagus, or maybe change the white asparagus because it doesn't go with this wine? And the artichoke's a little bitter for this wine. So they've been really given us some direction, and it goes both ways. But I really let the wine professional do the pairing, because that's their lane and that's their profession, and that's what they're passionate about. I'm not a chef that kind of thinks that he's a farmer and right, a forager. I'm not driving down the street and pulling weeds off the side of the road and putting them on a plate. I allow the people that are passionate and obsessed with their craft bring me the materials, and then I do what I do.
Yeah, your wine tasting, because last time I had dinner, I had friends who had the tasting menu. Obviously, they loved it. For me, I don't have a lot of white wine, so obviously it's heavier on the whites. I go with the red wines, and I find that I personally love the sort of the big bold cabs, and that's why I get the Wagyu. The red wine of the Wagyu is spectacular. So how do you maintain? I think the whites are probably easier to maintain a good supply of, because they're generally more plentiful. How do you pair wines when you have this? And again, maybe it's the Som's job, but there's such a shortage of good wine at the moment, as you know.
Yeah.
So like as a
we're really lucky to have a very deep cellar.
Okay.
With a lot of variety, and that was smart buying.
Okay.
Many years ago, and they just, as we know, wine just gets better and better.
Yep.
So we've kind of we've weathered this storm. During the COVID era with champagne, you couldn't get any champagne, nothing. That's kind of come back online.
Okay.
We're a big champagne house.
Your Krug is amazing.
Yeah, we're a Krug
95, I think.
Yeah, we have some very
incredible.
special champagnes. I think my cuisine speaks really well to champagne.
Yeah, I like that.
And we've been great. We've been able to maintain the red category, but we're in the process of building that back up, and it's just really taking some time, more time than necessary. But we understand the situation.
Tell me about the way you think about collabs, because you guys are pretty famous for doing collabs. I think Single Thread, you've done something Single Thread, and a few others. How do you think about working with other chefs and sharing the stage with them?
You know, it's great. It's a lot of fun, but you have to pick the right collaboration, because it's really important. You know, it's not about. I always put the customer first.
Yeah,
I always put the guest first. So when thinking about who would work well, or who would we have a great collaboration with, so the guests can experience this other chef's cuisine and it's very cohesive and it's great. That's number one. And then from there, at this level, I know all of the chefs that I've done collaborations with, and we're friends.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? We have a great respect for each other, and we get along well, and it's been great. So it's never forced. But some are easier than others, right? Some are very responsive really quickly. Some chefs are kind of the last minute, but then they just pull it off.
Yeah.
So it works.
It works.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, it's good to see those happening.
Yeah, they're fun. They're great. Yeah. It's exciting. It's great for the guests that they can, you know, you could be here in San Diego and someone can come from another country or another part of the state, and you're allowed to taste their cuisine and not have to travel.
Excellent. Well, keep inviting me to those.
Yeah.
I'm excited about
those are fun.
Yeah. Thank you. So I know you have over 600 cookbooks.
Yeah. More than that now.
Okay. Well, so what is your favorite cookbook of all time? What is the sort of seminal cookbook for you?
The Le Roux's Gastronomique.
Okay.
Yeah.
When is it published?
The one I have is one from 1975.
Okay, so it's
very, very old.
Very old.
I just love it because it's just a great reference point.
Okay.
Then there was probably the two other books that had big impacts on me. One would be Le Grand Livre de Cuisine from Alain Ducasse, which was kind of like the encyclopedia. It's a stunning illustrated cooking book recipe, you know, driven by alphabetical order. That's one of the best books ever done.
Okay.
I mean, Ducasse is
I've been to his 3-star in Monaco.
Sure. I've dined there as well.
Did you have they had this incredible
Baba rum.
I don't know what it's called, but the raw fish where they pour on hot rocks and they pour, I think, water or something onto it, and it steams in the lid, and you open, and it was probably the best fish I've ever had, like live steamed in front of me. It was incredible.
Yeah, and we talked about earlier lineage. I mean, my lineage goes through Ducasse. So one day I'll write a cookbook on lineage. That
would be very interesting too.
So you just follow the lineage, and you just take some of the recipes from them
and see how they evolved and change over time. Yeah, I mean, that was a really great restaurant. Give me something that you think is a common misconception on business life, on your career, that people they get it wrong, and you'd like to set the record straight on.
That it's all glamorous.
Okay.
You know, being a chef, you're a rock star. I think they people say. At this level, you're not.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's more like being a surgeon.
Yeah.
You're always on. You're always committed to your job.
Yeah.
And you need to perform at a high level whenever when you have to. You know what I mean? So we don't drive around in Porsches and Ferraris and.
It's just a grind.
It is.
But it's a passion.
It is.
If you go back in time and meet one person in history that you haven't met, who would you go back in time and meet?
Joël Robuchon.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's a legend.
Yes. He still has a record for the most Michelin stars, 36.
36?
36 stars when he passed away.
Wow. And that was recent, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, unfortunately he passed, yes.
Yeah. 36. Across how many restaurants?
I can't remember exactly how many off the top of my head he had, but he had 2 3-stars and a lot of 2s. And a few 1s. So he had a pretty good empire. I mean, he technically retired when he was 50 with his restaurant in Paris, Jamin, and he was a 3-star. That's all he had. And then he was brought out of retirement by some investors in his mid-50s, and he opened up all L'Ateliers around the world.
Yeah, L'Atelier is great.
So he took his 2 passions, aside from French cuisine, was sushi counters. Right, and you know, he was a big advocate of the Nouvelle cuisine, and you know, he was eating at Giro's when No one even knew who Jiro was.
Yeah.
That was Robuchon sitting there eating sushi.
Really.
Probably one of the best palates of all time was Robuchon.
Another great documentary, actually. I really enjoyed watching that one.
It was stunning.
So,
And so there, I mean, he took that style, and then he kind of blended it into, at the time in his retirement, he was living in Spain. So he had that tapas style where it's just like,
yeah.
And so he kind of blended those two together with his French technique and created ateliers, and they're pretty special. Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah.
Final question for you for today. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, sure.
What's next for Chef Bradley? What's next?
So next for me is, you know, I remember my wife was she's been by me the whole ride. I mean, a lot of my success, you know, people say, you know, for every great man there's a lady behind me, right? My wife's in front of me. You know, she's
I love that.
She's a different breed. And that's one thing too. I mean, a misconception is the spouse of a chef has to really be grounded and strong because of the commitment that we commit to this. You know what I mean? So, you know, she leaned over when I got the 3rd star and she said, "You've made it. You did it." And I looked at her and I said, "I want another one." And she's like, "You want another what?" And I said, "I want another 3-star. I want to feel that again." Yeah. So there are historically just a handful. There's 141 3-stars, but there's probably maybe 9 that have 2 3-stars simultaneously, and I want to be one of them. So
one of the 9. Well, I have no doubt you will get there.
Yeah.
And I look forward to being a regular at your next 3-star.
Time will tell.
Thank you, Chef. Appreciate you.
Always a pleasure. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
All right.